Good morning.
Good morning, everybody. It is November 20th, 2022. This is Man Coverage. Hey, can you hear me?
I gotcha.
Hold on one second. I got a little feedback here. All right.
Technical difficulties always happen every once in a while.
Yeah.
You have a wild Saturday, and this is what happens.
Yeah, we did have a wild Saturday. There was a little craziness going on. There we go. Got it fixed. All right. Sorry, guys. We got another week of college football in the books. This is Man Coverage with Knoxville Nate and James P. Bonneville. James, how you doing this morning, buddy?
Giddy up! Any better be a crime. So heck, we're officially in the week for the game. So
we are in the week of the game, and that's why we've got a special guest for us today who's going to help us talk about the game, what it means, what the players are going through, because he's been through it himself. We're going to bring on DEMETRIUS KNOX right now, if everything works. There we go. DEMETRIUS, can you hear us okay, buddy?
Yes, sir.
Awesome. Thank you so much for coming on with us today, man. We got obviously a big week this week with the Michigan game coming on. Last night or yesterday, we had a little bit of a ball game going on with Maryland. I got to be honest, I was about to throw up. I just want to ask you, man. I mean, this is nothing new. I mean, the Buckeyes, let's be honest, for the last 20 years, they've been a power. And every game, people don't understand that aren't, Buckeye fans or that don't follow the team as closely as some other people, how every game you're expected to win. There's got to be immense pressure for every, coach, every player when, the other teams, if they can knock the Buckeyes off, that could, essentially make their whole season. And I felt like some of that was going on yesterday. I felt like Maryland was like, hey, we got nothing to lose. Let's let it all hang out. And I feel like, potentially the Buckeyes were kind of playing not to lose and to win. Just tell us a little bit about your experiences back in the day of, that pressure of to win every game and what you feel like was going on with the team yesterday.
Every week, Coach Meyer used to say for us, we're going to get every team's best game. They see that block O, they see that logo up there, and, they're going to go out and play us hard every week. And it is a lot of pressure. It's a lot of pressure every single week. But, I mean, it's an honor at the same time. You're so good. The expectation is you're supposed to dominate or railroad through everybody. That's an honor and a blessing.
Yeah.
But games like yesterday, playing in the game, I wouldn't be too happy. But now that I'm outside the game now, those are key games. Those are good games. You got to be able to struggle, have those struggle games, so you don't get too cocky, too big-headed, especially leading into games like this for next week.
When you're going into, like, let's say whatever games you had just prior before going into the game, like, how quickly does your headspace like completely change since this? I mean, the culture of the program is driven by, this weekend. I mean, what do you go through in preparing for that week?
Oh, this is everything. I mean, during the off season, we dedicate a period every single day. We call it Team Up North period. During spring ball, during the summer, and as y'all know, we have clocks all over the facility.
Yep.
Count down the days, hours, minute. So I mean, you train for this. This is it. I was talking to a buddy of mine, and it's, knock on wood, you could dang near lose every game that season, but if you win this game, that's all that matters.
Do the butterflies just are the butterflies just going from the second like you leave the game prior to before you get that first hit on that Saturday?
Yeah, I mean, I'm pretty sure once you get into the locker room, Coach Day, he expressed to the team, what time it is.
Yeah.
It's that time.
Yeah, and Meech, I want to get your thoughts on the offensive line this year. I mean, I think this is a good group overall. I really do. But they've been a little bit up and down with their domination, in my opinion. I mean, I like this group. I think they've done a good job. Obviously, I mean, we're 11-0, so I'm not going to complain about any group on this team. And I like this group, but at times, it looks like we've struggled a little bit to run the ball. I don't know if that's been because of some of the injuries in the backfield. I want to get your thoughts. You know more than me about O-line play. What's your thoughts on these guys as a unit? And what do you think they can do against some of this upper level competition, especially going into this week against a pretty good Michigan front?
Well, yeah, I still got some young guys on the O-line that I'm pretty familiar with, Paris and Dwan and Matt Jones. But, as it starts getting colder up here in November, this is time for the O-line to dominate. Yeah, we know we can pass the ball. Stroud, amazing quarterback.
Yep.
But Coach Marati, he always used to say, keep it simple. Run the football, stop the run on defense. And we can make excuses and say, oh, we're down 2 running backs. We're down to a freshman. So what? Run the ball.
Yeah, it's always been the bread and butter of who really Ohio State is. Going back, previous to Meyer, you get into Cooper and Earl Bruce and even Woody. The running game and the offensive line really was the identity. Tell us a little bit about your process and how you ended up at Ohio State. I know it came down to Ohio State and UCLA, but being a Texas guy, did you feel pressure at all to go to a Baylor, a TCU? Heck, TCU's in your backyard at Texas. And what that process was like, because I saw was that Ed Warner and Tom Herman were your main connection points. So tell us a little bit about that.
I remember all the way back to 2nd grade. Ohio State was the first football game I saw on TV. I'm actually from Springfield, Ohio.
Oh, really?
Yeah, Springfield, Dayton area. Yeah, I remember Ohio State was the first game I saw on TV. Told my mom I was going to go there. My uncle told my mom that coming down to Texas in the 6th grade would help me out football-wise as far as recruiting. So originally, when the time came, I committed to the University of Texas.
Wow.
Mac Brown told me along the way that he was going to be asked to step down.
Yeah.
So I reopened my commitment process or my recruiting process, and Coach Meyer came in there and he promised me a national championship. Obviously you aren't supposed to believe everything during the recruiting process, but I went there first year, we got it done.
Yeah.
What's Urban like in your in-home visit? Like you people never hear about this stuff. Like I've heard from people talking about Bobby Bowden, how he really goes and sells the mother hard. What's Urban like when you have the in-house with your family?
He's actually he was actually a great recruiter. Him and Tom Herman were great recruiters. But not only is he just talking to the player, to the athlete, he makes a effort to communicate with the parents, just like you said as well. And the good thing, you get the parents on your side.
Yeah.
They're the ones who are going to be recruiting once he leaves. But everybody in my family was all Ohio State all the way, trying to get me to go there, trying to sell me to go there. I remember during the recruiting process, I was talking to some coaches over at UCLA, Coach Clem.
Yep.
I believe he's the O-line coach for Oregon right now, maybe.
Yep.
And, he's never had him as a coach, but one of my favorite coaches of all time, Coach Clem. But Coach Meyer, Herman came down. We're sitting in my head coach's office and talked to me going to UCLA for a visit. And I remember just Coach Meyer just sitting there, just staring at me. I felt him staring at me at the side of my head for like a solid 2 minutes, felt like 10. I'm trying not to make eye contact with him, where you could tell the tension in the room's kind of high. And all of a sudden I look over to my right and he's just staring at me and he goes, no. Everybody in the room understood. With that note, my head coach goes, well, he's a Buckeye. All right, come on.
Hey, there's no doubt, man. And I think you made the right choice. You got the title and you guys won what, three Big Ten championships while you were there? Yeah. And, obviously won a lot of games. And, there's got to be something more to it, because look at A&M. Texas A&M is a good example of a team that's got a lot of talent on their roster. There's a kid from down the street here, played high school football. Walter Nolan was a number 2 rated player in the country. And he went down there to A&M and along with a ton of other guys that are very talented. but they're having struggles to win a game. What is it that, the Ohio State brand does to help, with the winning way? I mean, what is it about Ohio State, you think, that just creates a winning culture up there?
Like you said, it's the culture, it's the tradition, it's the people.
Mhm.
Good thing with the carryover from Coach Meyer to Coach Day. Everybody knew Coach Day. Everybody loved Coach Day and the way he moved and treated his students and his student athletes and everything. But I really think it's a testament to the people, to the coaching staff. What you're going to let slide, what you're going to let players do underneath you, and they were very consistent every step of the way throughout my college career.
You've had a lot of great influences, not only personally, but in high school coaching, college, even in the pros. Who are some of those people that basically became your biggest influences and how you are now as, Dean of Athletics and assistant coach at All Saints right now?
I really, as far as the football side of things, I try and implement a whole bunch of stuff that I learned at Ohio State. I'm also the strength and conditioning coach at
You wear
All
hats.
Saints.
You got a lot of hats down there.
A lot of hats, a lot of hats. But I try and implement a whole bunch of stuff that Coach Mick taught me and us along the way. But my O line coach as well, Coach Bud back in college, and my head coach in high school, who's actually my boss now. But I just revert back to those teachings and things I learned along the way from them. My favorite quote that I always used to hear in college was, football is a simple game made complicated by coaches. Um, at one point in time, I was the not so smart O lineman, but also at one point in time, I like to say I had a pretty high football IQ. So I'm happy that I'm able to relate both gaps to both players as well.
Yeah, there's no doubt, Meech. And, I'm just thinking about, this season as a whole. And, I really have been impressed with the way that, some of these games could have gone the other way. I mean, there's no doubt yesterday, for example, could have gone the other way. I mean, Maryland had some momentum at times, especially I think about that instance where, they were up 2 touchdowns and they were going to go for 2. And, they got the delay of game and ended up having to kick the extra point. The ball went the other way, and then they got 2 points, and then Maryland got a touchdown and then put 2 on and cut it down to a 1-score game. And, it's got to take some resilience to keep taking all these teams' best shots. What's your overall feel with the 2022 Buckeyes? How far do you think this team can go? Do you see? I mean, you've won a championship. You know what it takes. Do you think this team has it? And what's your expectations going forward now?
1,000%. I think they can go all the way, win it all. But being the biased guy that I am, I put it all on the O line. This team is going to go as far as they go. We have the skill players. The defense has gotten a lot better. That pass rush has stepped up. Amazing quarterback. Hopefully he wins the Heisman. But it all depends on the O line. Can we put a hat on the hat? Can we be smart enough to pick up the blitzes?
So you were a freshman, I believe, during that game in Minnesota where it snowed a little bit and the guy was eating a dilly bar on the sideline before the game.
Yeah.
But I was actually at that game.
Really?
Tell me your headspace when you were coming into that game.
I talk about that all the time down here. It's starting to get cold down here in Texas. People are like, "Oh, it's so freezing." I'm like, you don't know what it's like to play in the cold. Yeah, that game, being a redshirt freshman, I just sat on the sideline. But I always say you couldn't see more than 13 yards in front of your face because our quarterback came over to the sideline and he was like, "Coach, I can't see more than 13 yards in front of my face." But no, it was an all-out blizzard. We weren't allowed to bring our little heaters or anything, so they gave us about 2 little heaters this big.
Oh,
and it came up nowhere past your ankles, and we're just huddled up over there trying to get our hands warm. But that's what football is all about. We're not
absolutely
inside playing in the nice AC like basketball is, but I love those types of games.
Oh, absolutely. It was. I always got a kick out of it whenever you started like hearing the clapping after a play. It all sounded so muffled because everybody
Yeah.
was wearing their coats or their gloves the entire time. And the guy who was Bucknut, the guy who paints his head, he and the guy in the cowboy hat who has the flag over him, they were walking around like looking at people like it was hilarious in the corridors. Like they thought like
Yeah.
a polar bear was going to pick somebody off walking to trying to get to their seats. It was just that was one of the most fun games I've ever been to, just because of how the environment was during and after that game. So
Yeah. Hey, it was fun to watch. It definitely was not fun standing on that side.
No doubt.
That's for sure.
No doubt. And there might be a little weather mixed in this weekend. I mean, I think, last year, I think it played a little bit of a role in that game because, Michigan had a really good offensive line last year, in my opinion.
yeah,
I mean, they ran the
Hmm.
ball well, and they had some guys fifth, sixth year guys that were able to move us around a little bit. But like you said, I think our defense has gotten better.
Hmm.
JT Talamua has really come around. Jack
Amazing.
Sawyer has starting to show some flashes. And my biggest thing is Zach Harrison. I mean,
Yeah.
damn. This is the year. I know Zach pretty well just from being from Columbus, and
Hmm.
some of my family members went to Olentangy Orange, where Zach is from. And so I've known him for a while, and I always thought he was going to be a beast. And he's played well, but I feel like this year he's really come into his own. As an offensive lineman by trade, let me know your thoughts on these D linemen, and what do you think the ceiling is for these guys?
Oh, I mean, first of all, the coach, the teacher, Coach
Oh
Johnson,
man, I love
speaks
Ray.
for itself. I mean, his resume speaks for itself.
Oh yeah.
But I mean, they still have that fight that I see from when I was there. You
Hmm.
know, not taking a play off, chasing the ball down from the backside. All this stuff is just going to come down to effort. Who wants it more? Um, at this level, everybody's fast, everybody's strong, everybody has a bull rush. How much time and effort do you put into your craft? You know, your technique, your first two steps off the ball. I love our defense. I'm happy that they've gotten a bit better. You know, I think that shows, but that also shows the care that they have towards the program, towards the craft, and that's huge, especially going into this week.
when you came on campus, I mean, obviously you were very highly recruited coming out of high school, but when was that moment during practice that you realized, oh crap, this is a real deal? Like I still remember the very first play we had on offense against you
Hmm.
guys in that cold game, and seeing Joey Bosa, because it was like a simple play action boot to the right, and freaking Joey Bosa looked like he got shot out of a cannon. I'm like, oh my god. I'm like, TV doesn't do it justice how fast this guy truly is. When was that moment you had that like, I got to up my game quick, otherwise this could get interesting?
I had, I say about three moments. First one, freshman, we aren't able to practice with the older guys yet, so we're just standing around watching in the back, full pads, and I'm seeing Braxton Miller run around. Now, growing up in Ohio, he lived, I think, three doors down from me. So I was used to seeing it young, but obviously years passed. I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm not that fast. I can't keep that. But second one, I remember Joey Bosa actually no, he slanted in from a five technique to me over at guard. And I'm still big headed freshman. I was like, I got this. It's my time to shine. He puts his arm out, the long army. I chop it down. He starts falling right in front of me. I was like, I did it. It's about to look great on film. He slaps his hand off the ground, doesn't miss a step, starts to bull rush me, pushes me all the way back to on the ground in front of Cardell, right in his lap, just taps the quarterback and walks off. I was like, what happened? But no, the biggest one, we go out there for the Sugar Bowl. We're confident, high, big head, confident. And we're running out there. We run out there first. I'm like, we got this. We got this. And then we see Bama run out. And then in my head, that moment, I was like, I was supposed to redshirt this year. I was like, y'all got this. Y'all got this. But no, it's out of every position, O-line is definitely the biggest jump from high school to college, because you go from playing against kids to grown men who may be 22, 23 years old.
Yeah.
And there's no doubt. And there's going to be some ballers on both sides of the ball coming up this week. Just give us your expectations for this game. What do you think? How do you think it's going to play out? I mean, you've seen some of both of these two teams this year, and obviously know both of these programs very well. What are your expectations for Saturday?
Honestly, I'm getting worked up now just even thinking about it. But it's huge. Like I said, everybody's big, strong, fast. It comes down to who wants it more. It comes down to who's put more time into this game. We've got great players, but they got great players.
Yeah.
Like I said earlier, football is a simple game made complicated by coaches who can run the ball, who can stop the run. And that's what this game is going to come down to.
Yeah. Does the coaching staff talk about the history in a 10-year war? Explaining the impact of Woody and Bo had and really bolstering this to, I mean, let's be honest, it's a civil war in all honesty. I mean, how much do they talk about that? It's brought up quite a bit.
Yeah, I remember one Woody Hayes story. I forget who told it to me, but one Woody Hayes story. They're practicing, and then all of a sudden, Woody sees a guy in the distance, and they're like, "Who is that? Who is that?" He was like, "It's a spy. Bo brought him down here. He brought him down here to spy on us." So he stops the practice, and instead of just kicking the guy out, he moves the whole practice to a different field. He's like, "He won't get us this year. He's trying to spy on us." So the other day in practice, I did my best Woody Hayes impression of that. Everybody was like, because we're in the playoffs now. They're like, "Who's the guy with that camera?" We got the news there. I was like, "It's a spy. They brought us down." No, but the tradition of that game, I mean, it's like Coach Meyer used to say, it's the best rivalry in sport.
Absolutely. I mean, because you look at all the other rivalries outside of Army, Navy, they're all in-state stuff. Auburn, Alabama, in-state. Well, I mean, this has got ramifications across the country because the alumni bases are just so big. Now, do you still, the week of this game, eliminate the letter M anywhere possible, even in your own name? So you just sign D Knox from now on. So yeah.
Yep. My signature. I just put D Knox. But I have a coworker. He's our DB's coach. He played for that team up north.
Oh,
and he played in the league for 11 years as well. But I'll be over his house in full out Ohio State gear, dang near helmet on and everything. We'll be watching the game together.
Wow,
nice.
That's a crazy way to do it. I don't know if I could watch the game with a Michigan fan next to me, man. I have a hard time even being in the same room as those people. But he's your boy, and he's your coach that you deal with every day. So I get it. But I got to be honest, I'm already starting to get excited, and this is a big old game, man. And I just hope that I hope that the mindset is right. Do you think that, having what happened last year, do you think that provides any extra motivation? Not that they need it, but do you think that provides any extra motivation wanting to get back on the right side of this thing?
Oh, yeah, for sure. I mean, in the past 15 years, they've won 2, maybe 3 times, twice.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, like you said, nothing even has to be said. But just adding last year on top of this, I know they're juiced up. I know Coach Dave, Coach Mick definitely has them ready.
I think so. I mean, I got to be honest. When Coach Meyer stepped down and Coach Day took over, I was like, I like this. I like that we're keeping it in-house. Mm-hmm. And I thought he would do a good job. But 45-4. I mean, you're a coach now. Talk to me about the job Ryan Day has done since becoming the head coach at Ohio State.
Outstanding. Not only is he a good coach as far as X's and O's, his offensive mind to it, but he's a player's coach.
Yeah.
I mean, every day the way he interacts with with guys on the team, and I still talk to them now, and they tell me, like, you want to go out and fight and play for a guy like that. You want to show up on time for meetings and do these hard workouts and take care of your body for a coach like that. And he gives, and he's a part of giving the players dang near everything they need to be successful. So who wouldn't want to go out and play for a coach like that?
Yeah, no doubt. And I think it really came to the forefront when all the stuff came out about Harry Miller. And, Ryan Day shared his own, life experiences. And he had never talked about that before. And he didn't really do it, for publicity. He did it because he was trying to help his player. And, that really stood out to me that this guy is a great person, not just a great coach. So I'm hoping for the best, man. And Demetrius, we got to stay in touch with you because I hope that you have a great rest of the playoffs. We'll be cheering for you, and I'll be following along. And go Bucks, man. I hope they pull it out, and I hope everything goes the way we want. But we truly appreciate you coming on with us today. And, we value your time, and we appreciate you spending some of it with us.
Yes, sir. Thank y'all. OH.
Right. I hope. Have a good one, Mitch. Good luck in the
semis.
Thank you.
All right, bye. All right, that was Demetrius Knox, former O-lineman at Ohio State, current coach at All Saints, still getting it done. And, wow, he had a lot of good information, especially for this week. James, what did you think about what he had to say about the game and also, this unit and this team?
Well, it's something a lot of people just don't think about. I mean, they see the game end and not realize all the preparation and thought process that goes on off season before the week of the game. I mean, heck, at the end of the day, these kids are still 18 to 23-year-olds, and they still have to go to class and still have to do all the other stuff. And just hearing the mindset of what he goes through, but how those guys prepare them not only for the game but for life too as well. I love that human aspect of it.
Yeah, I do too. And Demetrius had a really good career there, and I think he gave us some good insights into what these players go through. I mean, people don't really think about that, but it's like Duke basketball, or the Yankees or the Cowboys. I mean, it's that type of brand where if one of these teams, Maryland, I'm trying to think back at some of the other games, Penn State, some of the other teams that put up a good fight this year, they win that game. That's big time news. I mean, Ohio State wins. It's not even like I went to ESPN this morning. I couldn't even find an article about the Ohio State game anywhere because when they win, it's not really news. But when they're losing during the game, Twitter goes nuts. My phone blows up. If they actually do lose, which it's been over a year since we lost, so it doesn't happen that often. But if they do lose, it's big time news. And so I think, that pressure definitely comes into play. And I could tell yesterday, there was some of that seeping in. But the way that the coaching staff keeps those guys focused and, just focused on the task at hand, I think is impressive.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, there are very few programs you're either loved or hated. There is no in between. And I mean, if you're, part of the hate group, you view them as the evil empire, where if you beat them, heck, that's your year. You remember that game.
Yeah, there's no doubt. And so kudos to their coaching staff. And we got another coach we're going to bring on. Demetrius is a O-line coach right now. We got a really good coach coming on with us as well. We got Coach Tony Franklin going to join the show. I'm going to bring him on right now. Hey, Coach.
What's up, guys? How are y'all?
Hey, how you doing today, Coach? Can you hear us okay?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. You're doing fabulous. How you guys doing?
We're doing great. We really appreciate you taking a few minutes to come on with us today. We had another awesome week of college football, and we wanted to get you on here and get some of your thoughts, especially about the college football season this year and what you think of, what's gone down. I mean, a lot about the coaching world, and me and James have both been blown away by some of the coaching jobs that have been done, especially over at TCU and Coach Dykes. Coach Dykes from your experiences, and I just want to get your thoughts on some of the action that's happened so far in 2022 and who you think's done a pretty good job coaching their teams thus far in the season that we've been watching.
Well, you can start with Sonny, with what he's done at TCU, and Sonny and I had 6 years together, where he was the head coach and I was the offensive coordinator, 3 at Louisiana Tech and 3 at Cal. But we actually started together in 1997 back at Kentucky when he was a young grad assistant and I was an assistant coach on Hal Mummy's staff. And so I've known Sonny for a long time. This is it's what I call the perfect marriage. I think that on my podcast a day or two ago, I talked about, or maybe I tweeted it, I think maybe a couple of days ago. I think that there's jobs that coaches are made for. I think that a guy goes somewhere and he's a tremendous success. He leaves and goes somewhere else and he's a tremendous failure. And I think Sonny was made for the TCU job. I think that he's a Texas guy. And as you know, being from Texas, being a part of that culture is very important in being a coach, a college coach in the state of Texas. Understanding how important high school football coaches are, understanding how not only how important they are, but how good they are. How good, Sonny realizes and understands that you can have every big name on the list that you want to have. It doesn't mean anything in Texas. What means something in Texas is that, are you from there? Have you come up through the ranks? Have you proven yourself? And it doesn't matter if you're a high school coach, a college coach, an NFL coach. It doesn't make any difference. And Sonny understands that. So he understands that culture. TCU is a job that he always knew was a great job. And obviously, Gary Patterson did a phenomenal job. It's just like everybody, the longer you stay somewhere, the less support you have, the more the challenging it becomes. Everybody wants a fresh face. And so it was just simple that it was probably time for a change. Sonny had beaten them a couple of years at SMU, knew that that was a job that if he could get that job, it gave him an opportunity for a national championship because of the culture that was already there and already having good players. And in today's world, you better have an NIL structure. You better have a coaching staff structure to where every single advantage that you can gain is done through the administration and through the boosters, et cetera. And that's the way that it was set up at TCU. They had good players. They already had good players. Then they filled in some spots. He built a coaching staff that was what he wanted. He didn't look and go, okay, I need to sign a big name defensive coordinator because, I'm got this great job and I need a big name deal. No, he looked out and said, let me find the guy that fits this place, that is a damn good coach, that can come in here and that can immediately hit the ground running and can keep it going. And that's what he did. He just hired a coaching staff that fit what he wanted. He hired Mark Tommerdahl, who's been well known forever in special teams. And this is the thing I said on my podcast today, was that what they did at the end of the game to win that game, I watched that for 6 years. Some of these so-called experts say, well, I wonder if they really did practice that every Thursday. Trust me, every single Thursday, they did what they called Torah, which was, if you go back to World War II and Pearl Harbor, was a lightning attack that the Japanese did on the American troops. And they used that word, lightning attack. Got to get on the field. There's no timeouts left. I saw it every Thursday for 6 years. It came to fruition. And Sonny has always been a huge special teams advocate. And it worked to perfection because they work it. Some guys give lip service to it, but Sonny had always done that. And Mark Tommerdahl, has been well known forever as one of the best special team coaches in football. So it worked because they worked it. And so, that would be the first job in football right now that I would say you have to say these guys have done as good a job as anybody in football.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. And yesterday, as you just mentioned, was a perfect example of it, because sometimes, you get in the heat of the moment and those end of game clock running out of timeout situations come up, and it can spell disaster if you don't have your guys prepared. And obviously, Coach Dykes did, and that's why they were able to win. And they've won several close games this year. And that's the same thing that we were just talking to Demetrius about with the Buckeyes. It hasn't all been 50-point blowouts. There's been some close games, and that's where I think coaching really comes into play, is in some of those close games. And I wanted to talk a little bit about down the road from TCU over in College Station, and kind of what's happened with A&M. I mean, this is a team that obviously has talent. They have some good coaches that have done good jobs in the past, but this year has kind of been a mess, just being blunt about it. What are your thoughts on what's gone down in College Station, and why Texas A&M has struggled this season with all the talent they have?
Well, I think to me, it's pretty simple. I think they're horrendous on offense because of coaching. And it's that the head coach needs to fire the offensive coordinator. And by the way, he is the offensive coordinator. So he needs to fire. And I'm not saying the guy that has the title of offensive coordinator. I'm saying the one that actually is the offensive coordinator. He needs to fire himself. It's an easy deal. He doesn't have to walk very far to do it. You walk, you look in the mirror and you go, you know what? I've had some good years. There's a lot of things in this game that have changed dramatically. I haven't changed with them. I got the best players in football. We've out-recruited everybody. We've got everybody here that we need except for one thing. We don't have a good offensive coordinator, and that's me. I need to fire myself, and I need to hire somebody. Right now, I could give him 100 names in the state of Texas, high school football coaches that he could hire tomorrow that would go and win a national championship for him. He won't do that because it's ego. There's ego involved. It's going to have to be some big name guy, somebody that's going to come in. It's going to be, somebody that I'm going to tell him what to do and how to do it and all that. That ain't what he needs. You look at the state of Texas again. Like I said, there's 100 high school coaches right now he could hire tomorrow, and they would have a national championship blueprint if he would just shut up, walk away from them, let them do their job. I don't see that happening. And it's not to say that, that he hasn't been a successful coach, because he has. But we all go through these cycles. You go through a cycle. There's only two kinds of coaches: those that have been fired, those that will be fired. That's it. Yeah. So you got to look in the mirror sometimes and go, I'm the problem. Mm-hmm. There ain't no problem except me. I got to fix it. And that's an easy fix for them if he would allow himself to do it. So, obviously the boosters have laid out the money. They've given him everything he wants, everything he needs. I watch a guy coach during a game, and here's what I hate about the way that he coaches. Watch every single bad play on offense. It ain't never him. It's always the quarterback. They're coming off the field. He's berating them in front of everybody. And the only reason you do that is to let everybody know that it's not your fault. You're berating that quarterback after quarterback after quarterback after quarterback. It's their fault. It's not my fault. When in reality, it is his fault. It can't be all the guys that have been before him. And, again, when you can go to Tuscaloosa and play Alabama, neck and neck, you got players, they're everywhere, but they got problems. You played the worst team in the world yesterday, and you struggled to score 20 points at home. Yeah. I mean, you got problems, and more than likely he's lost his football team. And, so that's always a problem too. So obviously, like I said, Jimbo Fisher has been a great football coach at times in his career. There's no doubt about it. The proof is in the printout, but also the proof is in the printout right now that he doesn't have to go very far to see the problem. He just got to look up and look in the mirror, have an honest evaluation, and say, I got to fix this. It's me. I'm the problem. I got to fix it.
Coach Franklin, honestly, I'm a huge fan of yours. And I've always wanted to know, like, you talk about the innovation of, like, what Coach Fisher is not done. He's really running the same dang offense he ran way back when he was at LSU. But I look at you and in your coaching, what was your influences when you started creating the system, and who are those influences that made you look at it and just turn the dial a little bit to tweak it to, change your thought process to evolve over time as the game has evolved?
Well, I go back to a couple of things that happened in my career. The biggest thing that happened to me to help me as a football coach was coaching at Mayfield High School in Mayfield, Kentucky from 1993 to 95. I didn't know how to win. I knew how to coach, but I didn't know how to win. I didn't know how to be a championship football coach. I went to Mayfield High School in Mayfield, Kentucky in 1993. I'd already been a head coach. I was the youngest head coach in the state of Kentucky at one time. I'd been a head coach at a couple of schools. I'd never won big. I go to Mayfield because I need a job. I've been an entrepreneur. I got my ass kicked. I needed a job. I had 3 small children. I needed to win. I needed to get a paycheck. So I went there, I shut up, and I listened, and I watched, learn how to play defense, learn how to run the football. Well, then a couple of years later, by me working my ass off to help Hal Mumme get the job at Kentucky, which is a whole other story, because I didn't deserve to be at Kentucky. I didn't deserve to be an SEC football coach, but I pulled off a miracle by helping Hal. I didn't get Hal the job. I helped Hal. Hal had already done all kinds of amazing things, but there's no way in the world he gets the job without me coming up with some crazy ass plan. He gets the job, I get hired. So now I learn how to do the quote air raid stuff. But in those days, Hal would line up in a 2-back set, get under the center and run the football. He wouldn't do that today because I think just like Mike Leach over the years, they got to listening to all the stuff about how wonderful they were and throw it every play and all that stuff. And then it becomes a pride thing. But in those days, I learned how to practice football through Hal Mumme. So then I'm out of football for 5 years. Nobody will hire me. So I start this deal to where that I began to teach high schools. And I say, okay, what if you took Hal Mumme's system, and then what if you added tempo? And the tempo idea came from this. I watched, of all things, Alabama in the Orange Bowl against Michigan line up, no huddle, fast, and give the ball to Sean Alexander 6 or 7 or 8 times in a row.
I remember that game well.
How could that be? What would happen if we did that with Hal's system? So I actually tried to get Hal to do it. We did it in the spring a little bit, and he just wasn't his thing, didn't want to do it. So we didn't do it. So once I didn't have a job, I said, I'm going to do this stuff. I'm going to teach all these high schools how to do it. So all of a sudden, I got high schools throughout the country that are playing fast before it's cool, before everybody even knows what it is, and they're kicking ass and taking names. In the state of Texas, I got some guys by the name of, Aaron Beck and Randy Jackson and Mike Fuller. And I got all these guys that go, holy shit, we can go out and we can steal a bunch of games and win a bunch. And it changed their careers. And those guys started kicking ass and taking names. And eventually I get a job in college again at Troy. So we play fast football and we're able to steal 2 championships. And then Auburn hires me and goes, hey, we want to do this cool stuff. And then when I got there, I was like, well, maybe not really. It ain't working exactly the way. And so it was the worst marriage in the history of football. And so at 5-2, I get fired, which is hard to do. It's hard to get fired at 5-2. But I managed to be a big enough horse's ass to get fired at 5-2. If you ever lose to Vanderbilt and you're in the SEC, somebody's getting fired. So Florida, somebody's getting fired. 2 weeks ago, somebody's getting fired because that's what happens when you lose to Vanderbilt in the SEC. So I got fired, and then I was able to go on to Middle Tennessee, win 10 games, and then hook up with Sonny. We're able to win the WAC, average 52 points a game, get the job at Cal, average almost 40 points a game the last 2 years. And then I left and go back to Middle because my mom is dying. I need to be a better son. And I go back where I'm closer to home and have no regrets for that because I was able to spend time with my mom. So long story short, for the first time ever in football history. All information began to flow up, not down. It used to go NFL to college, college to high school. Not anymore. All information flows up. NFL does not want to do it. Oh, we're not doing that RPO stuff. We're not going to do it. And so the RPO deal is a whole other story because basically I used to hire Dana every year to come to my seminars. Dana was always single. He wanted to have fun. Wherever I did a seminar, Dana would come. So Dana came and I would get some little tidbit of information. Dana's at Oklahoma State. It's 2011. I'm listening to him and he goes, hey, we getting this little deal here. We call it the diamond. We got 3 backs in the backfield. We got a couple of receivers out here. And he goes, we just run the ball. And then I have those guys run routes and I just let the quarterback throw it if he wants to. And I said to myself, that's the most genius thing I've ever heard in my life. So I go back to Sonny and I go, Sonny, let's try this thing out, but let's do it for everything, not just in this diamond formation. Let's do it with every single thing we got. And Sonny goes, cool, let's try it. That's where the RPO deal goes from. It gets us the Cal job because we average 50 points a game. The next year we score 57 against Texas A&M, and 3 SEC opponents in a row score 20. Johnny Manziel wins the Heisman. We lose 59-57. That gets us the Cal job. And then the rest is history for the whole world because the RPO deal goes through the roof. I used to have my clients, I would say, I'm going to make you guys sign a contract that you don't teach people how to do this because I think we get 5 years of this. And 5 years of this may get us all millionaires, you know. Well, Sonny's a millionaire. I'm not. But the cool thing is that it really did dramatically change football. Coaches throughout the country began to do it. They began to develop the RPO stuff. And, you know, Art Briles did a hell of a job with it at Baylor. And he was doing some stuff that I learned watching his deal, and it made me get better doing the RPO deal. And so today, you know, the NFL finally goes, you know, this RPO stuff, we probably better start doing it. And now the NFL plays the best players at quarterback. They like to take guys like Mahomes and Josh Allen, and they're letting guys play football instead of going, oh no, we're going to take Johnny Manziel. We're going to put him under the center, make him do a 9-step drop. And I'm like, are you guys stupid? Yeah. You know, yes, you are. The answer is yes, you are.
It's so true, man. Yeah, I think the Eagles are having some success with it, and the Ravens.
Yeah, it's amazing how all of a sudden, you know, and not only that, just look at what the Bears did the last few weeks. They finally go, hey, let's let this guy play ball.
Yeah,
let's actually devise the offense around him than around us. And then in the NFL now, like you said, the Eagles finally did it. And, you know, shit, it's like all of a sudden we're smart.
Yeah. You know, you look at the quarterbacks, like I look at 3 quarterbacks you've had throughout your career who are really pretty different. I mean, between Dasher, Goff, and Brent Stockstill. What was your thought process? Like, you know, you already know your system. Do you set it up to make them the best they are? Or are you trying to implement them more into what your thought process is? Because they're, I mean, radically different in style and substance.
Well, that's a great question because I had Dwight Dasher, Omar Hagabook, and maybe the best of all of them, a kid by the name of Asher O'Hara, which nobody hardly remembers. Go to Sacramento State. They're 11-0 right now. Watch what that kid has done. He was an all-conference guy at Middle that followed Brent Stockstill. People just don't remember him because they don't want to. Kid's a phenomenal player. You devise the offense. I always start at the same, which is, you know, a base style. Is that let's go in and teach our base offense. Then I see what the quarterback can do. And then instead of like a dumbass Tony that would have been 20 years ago, 15 years ago, me going, oh, no, you got to do it my way. That's not the way you do it. It's me figuring out what they can do, what they're good at, and then devising an offense around them. And so that's what, like, you know, you got Dwight Dasher. You say, who's the best quarterback in Middle Tennessee history? Everybody would say Brent Stockstill. And he was a good player. But Dwight Dasher won 10 games
Yeah.
because he ran for 1,100 yards and threw for 2,800. It's a lot easier to call plays when a guy can do that. Jared Goff's the first pick in the draft, takes the Rams to the Super Bowl. He's an all-pro quarterback. He is a phenomenal player. He's a bad, tough man, okay? He's different than Asher O'Hara. So you have to run an offense that reflects who they are, not who you are. And that's the biggest mistake, I think, in coaches. And look, I've been the biggest dumbass in the world in coaching. Everybody that coaches for a long period of time will eventually be a moron because you're going to go through cycles where you've got players that fit, chemistry that works, it all comes together, and you score 40 points a game and you look smart. Then all of a sudden you're going to hit a deal that it doesn't fit and you're trying to figure it out. The chemistry breaks and then you got issues and you got problems, and especially today, college football, everybody goes, you look at Tennessee last night and go, how does that happen? How does Tennessee go and lose at South Carolina the way they lost? How does Lane Kiffin go to Arkansas and lose? It's simple. It's not hard. You guys said it before I came on the show. These are college kids.
Yeah.
A girlfriend broke up with them and broke their heart. Okay. They played at home and lose a close game to Alabama that they should have won. Now they got to go on the road in the SEC and listen to a roaring crowd. They ain't real fired up about it. Okay. Yeah. Tennessee, same thing. They got to go on the road. South Carolina is one of the best atmospheres in all of football.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Bryce Williams.
I had my pick of the year last night. You know who it was? Middle Tennessee was a home underdog to Florida Atlantic.
Wow.
There's no way in the world Florida Atlantic wants to go there.
Yeah.
Because why? It's 30 degrees. It's cold. There's 50 people at the game. They listed at 9,000. There's about 50 people there. They're going to show up, warm up, and go, hell with this. I don't want to be here. And Middle's going to kick their butt, which they did. All those things factor into college football that people don't understand. So when you look at these dramatic, like, holy God, what happened in this game? Well, Johnny's girlfriend broke up with him. So-and-so has got a test tomorrow. Like if you're coaching at Cal and Stanford and Northwestern, and all of a sudden you've got midterms, it's a whole other animal. It's not like coaching at some of the other schools I've coached where they go, what's a midterm? If you're coaching at Cal, you're coaching at Stanford, you're coaching at Northwestern, those kids have got an exam that they got to study for 20 hours that week for in order to make it. And guess what? They're going to own the football team someday instead of play for it.
Yeah. Yeah, there's no doubt. And I want to go back to a team we just talked about, or you just talked about and mentioned there, Tennessee. I mean, obviously yesterday didn't go well as planned, obviously. But he's done, I think Coach Heupel's done a really good job this year and, exceeded expectations in my opinion. And I just want to get your thoughts on, what's gone on there. I mean, they had a good year last year. They believe he won 8 games coming off a 3-win season the year before in the Pruitt disaster. Just want to get your thoughts on what Coach Heupel's done and what you think led to the success that they had this season prior to last night.
Right. Well, first of all, he's a really good football coach. And from what I don't know him, I've never met him, but from what people in the profession say, he's a really good human being. That matters these days because here's what happens now. A couple of things. In the world of immediate transfer, in the world of NIL, coaches have to be better humans.
Yeah.
In the old days, you could be the biggest ass in the world. In the new days, if you're that, you better be paying me a ton of money if I'm a good player. A ton of money, and I still might go somewhere else. So you got a guy that's a good guy, that's a good football coach. They get a few fixes in the transfer portal. They get some guys that come in that are really good players that fit what he wants to do.
Yeah.
Here's the next thing. You play incredibly fast, which will give you some blowouts. Now, let's get to the final part. Is he going to win a championship there? Because everybody thought this year it could happen because they were sitting there perfectly. In my belief, my experience, no one ever wins a championship, ever, unless you're good on defense. I don't care if you score 80 points a game. You're going to have a game where it just doesn't click. I don't care if you throw it 50 times a game, you throw for 12,000 yards. You're going to have a game where the ball's tipped and it's intercepted 3 times. You're going to have a game where you turn it over. You will never win a championship until you're good on defense. You don't have to be great, but you have to be at least average because you got to mix it. That's the deal. You get back to Sonny at TCU this year. Mm-hmm. They go to Texas and they have an off night. Yeah. They have an off night on offense.
They sure did.
Guess what? The defense lights them up.
Yeah, they played great.
That has to mesh on those nights. On those nights that you're not clicking at 100 miles an hour and you're not scoring 40, the defense has to play great that night. So I'll give you a classic example. In 2011, we win the WAC at Louisiana Tech. Everybody thinks, well, it was because you were great on offense. No, we weren't. We were average to a little above average. As the season went on, we got better because we really got good at RPOs as the season went on. But 2 things happened. We were great on special teams. We played really good defense as we got into conference play, and we didn't turn the ball over. 7 weeks in a row, we don't turn the ball over. So we win the championship. Guess what? The next year, we're 9-1. The Orange Bowl is at La Tech. Our quarterback throws 444 balls in a row without an interception, Kobe Cameron. An NCAA record that I do not believe will ever get broken. It's the most magical experience ever. And then all of a sudden, we got a home game against Utah State, who wins 11 that year. The next week, we play San Jose State, who also wins 11. They're also in the WAC. We turn the ball over 5 times. We don't win the WAC. With the greatest offense, one of the best offenses ever in football. You know why? Because on that year, we lose a couple of players, and we're not as good on defense. We win when you are good on defense. You don't win championships unless you're good on defense.
Yep.
It doesn't mean you don't have a game where you play bad. You can have a bad game, especially in today's world of college football. But you have to be at least average on defense to win a championship, and Tennessee's not average.
Yeah.
We talked about innovation before. Who are those innovators that you see out there that you're impressed by of how they're evolving the game? Like 2 people that came in my mind was, we talked about one of these guys going into the year is the OC at Texas Tech and Zach Keightley. And then I look at Willie Korn over at Coastal Carolina. But just from your perspective, who out there intrigues you from your thought process of what they're doing and how they're evolving the game?
Yeah. This is going to be a name that none of you guys will probably know, but everybody else in the world won't. Troy Taylor, the head coach at Sacramento State. Let me tell you something. If I was a head coach, somebody screwed up and hired me as a head coach, first thing I would do, I would get in a plane. I would fly to Sacramento. I would pay him whatever I could for him to teach me how to be a great head coach. And here's why. Number one, I knew Troy. Troy, for those of you that don't know, Troy was a great quarterback at Cal. Jared Goff broke most of – everybody thinks Aaron Rodgers had all the records. No, Troy Taylor did. Jared Goff broke Troy's records. Troy just happened to be a high school coach down the road at Folsom High School around Sacramento.
Yeah.
I went and watched them practice. I met with Troy. I was walked away. I came back and told our staff, you guys want to learn how to coach? You better go watch these guys because they practice better. They're better coach than any team I've ever seen. He then gets the offensive coordinator job at Eastern Washington, goes and averages like 45, 48 points a game for a couple of years. Goes to Utah as the OC there for a couple of years. They win 8, 9, 10 games, but he's not completely being able to do everything that he needed to do. So he takes the head job at Sac State. They've never won at Sac State.
Yeah.
Look at his record for 3 years now. They haven't lost a conference game in the toughest FCS conference in football. They've not lost a road game in 2 years. And he's playing two quarterbacks. He's playing my former quarterback and another guy, rolls them in and out of the game like you could not imagine what his brain is and how he's thinking. No idea. But here's the biggest thing he's done. They have the best camaraderie. Those two quarterbacks love each other. Hey, figure out how to do that in today's time.
Yeah.
Ain't easy. That ain't easy.
It's impossible. So that would be the innovator that right now, if I had to go choose somebody to learn from, that would be the one guy that I would choose. I mean, anybody can look at what Lincoln Riley's done and say, how does he do it? He's a phenomenal play caller.
Yeah,
he's a great quarterback coach. Because here's the thing, you look at his quarterbacks that he's coached, they've been top draft picks and gone to the NFL and all that stuff. But he is just a great play caller and a great quarterback coach. But again, they've struggled to play good defense, so it's hard for him to win a national championship. But hell, he's one of the best coaches in all of football. And then I've always admired Chris Hatcher, who's the head coach at Samford. When I was at Kentucky, this young whippersnapper named Chris Hatcher walked in the door and acted like he invented football. And he taught me the offense. Hal Mumme didn't teach me anything because in those days there was no playbook. There was nothing. Hatcher taught me the offense when he and I took a little trip and I went to Missoula, Montana and out to Utah, and he wrote it up on napkins on an airplane and drinking beer. He and I snow skiing and doing the normal things back in those days to learn how to coach football. But Chris last night finished undefeated, had a phenomenal year at Samford, undefeated in FCS play. The only game they lost was Georgia. He's probably going to be one of the top seeds in the playoffs. And he's always been just a really good football coach. And he's like all of us. He's been fired. He's looked like an idiot, but he's a really good head football coach and all that. So those are guys that I would go study and learn from.
Yeah, those are all good ones.
That's awesome.
You mentioned the MTSU game yesterday. I get to brag on one of my boys here. The quarterback for MTSU, Chase Cunningham, he went to my high school here, Knoxville Catholic, and man, I'm impressed with that kid. He waited his turn.
Let me tell you. Yeah, I can tell you stories about Chase because Chase, I remember them showing me the film and saying, hey, do you care if this kid walks on? I said, shit, care. This guy's better than guys we're recruiting. And, his high school coach was the same coach that coached Brent Stockstill. And so
Steve Matthews.
Exactly. And he's a phenomenal coach and he had wonderful things to say. And Chase was competing with Asher all the time. And I played, sometimes there were games where Chase came in and took over for Asher and all that stuff. And Chase was a great kid. I went to Rick somewhere along the way and said, look, instead of me going out and recruiting somebody else, this kid deserves a scholarship. Let's put him on. I don't need to go get another guy. Let's have this guy. And we put him on scholarship. And he is a really good football player. And I'm tickled to death to see his success. And I'm not surprised at all. He had a better arm than most everybody I ever coached in football. And the thing that surprises people is that he's actually fast. He can run. And with a torn ACL coming back from that after last season, I'm tickled to death for his success. But you're right. He's a really good player and just a really good human being.
Yeah, he came in. He was just a little kid, came in as a sophomore and took over when the starter went down for our high school and led us to the state championship. And the rest is history. But I really, really respect that young man because he's worked really hard. And just my last question for you, Coach, because I don't want to take up any more of your time here. I know you're a busy man, but I just want to get your thoughts on what's happened at Georgia. Coach Smart took over. And he's really, kind of transformed that program. And, here we are. They're looking to potentially, follow up a national championship with another one. And I just want to get your thoughts on what's happened there. I mean, Coach Rick was close for a long time and had some really good teams and good seasons, but could never get over the hump. What do you think's happened at Georgia to allow them to get all the way to title land and stay there.
Right. Well, there's a couple of things that stand out. Number one, he learned how to recruit from Nick Saban. Recruiting in the SEC is different, you know, and I could go in depth, but I'm not going to. Everybody can use their imagination. If you're going to be in the SEC, you better know how to recruit SEC, not recruit Big 12, not recruit Pac-12. You got to know how to recruit the SEC. For those insiders out there, they know what I'm talking about. So he always knew how to do that. Now that you have the NIL, it will continue in a different way. He is relentless in recruiting because Nick Saban was. He learned from the best. So he learned how to do that. But still, they couldn't win a championship until he did one thing. And I was singing by myself for a long time. Stetson Bennett had one offer coming out of high school, one Division I offer by some dumbass named Tony Franklin at Middle Tennessee.
That's where I was going with this, Coach.
I went to watch Stetson. I went to watch him practice. I begged him. I wanted him. I knew he was special. He comes on a visit with his dad. He left at halftime. Ain't no way in hell he was going to Middle Tennessee.
Mm-hmm.
The reason was he wanted big-time football. And not, you know, Middle beat Miami. When I was there, we beat Missouri, we beat Syracuse. It's not that it's not good football, but the atmosphere is nothing like big-time football. I mean, we played UAB for a championship. We won the East Division. UAB won the West. They would say there was 10,000 people there. There was probably 2,000 people there. So when you want that, when you really want that big-time deal, he was willing to walk on at Georgia. And here's the thing. The whispers were coming out of there forever. Coach Hatcher and I at Stanford used to talk about it because he and I were fighting when Stetson was in JUCO to get him back. Hatcher and I were like, you know, we both were like, this dude, man, I hope he goes there and screws up so nobody will take him. So he goes there, he doesn't even have a great year there at the JUCO. Throws a bunch of interceptions, throws a bunch of touchdowns. But he goes back to Georgia. Every player on that team knew he was the best player. Everybody knew. All the whispers coming out of there were, he's the best. But he wasn't a five-star recruit. He wasn't the big-time recruit. So they let that pressure, which is hard to imagine, that at a school like that, with the reputations those coaches have, they didn't play him. The other kid had to get hurt.
JT Daniels.
And then he played. And then it was like, okay, he's going to screw it up, and then we'll put the other kid back in. No. Let me tell you about Stetson Bennett, what he's got. And try to think of the right way to say this. He's got a big set of things that you need to be great. Okay?
Yeah.
He ain't afraid. He'll throw an interception. It don't bother him one bit. Kirby will chew his ass out royally because he made a throw that he shouldn't have made. And it don't bother him a bit. All great quarterbacks are the same. They learn, but they're like, you know what? I'll make the same throw and I'll make it work the next time. I'll win you a championship, buddy. I ain't listening to nobody. I'll learn. Don't get me wrong. I'll learn from coaching. But they had enough guts to stay with the kid, and that's why they won a national championship. And if they win one this year, it'll be the same thing. He ain't afraid to make mistakes, and he's really good. He's really good. Everybody says, well, he doesn't have the arm to do this. He doesn't have – I would like to punch some of those announcers that think they're experts because they're literally so stupid. Oh, he doesn't have the arm that the other kid had. He's not a five-star. We knew no, you didn't. You just won't admit it. He's an NFL quarterback because he can make plays. He is a good football player that has a really good arm. And oh, by the way, he's fast.
Oh, yeah.
He's very elusive. He keeps plays alive. He's just good. He's just a winner and good.
He's a winner. Yeah.
Well, he's won several of these games this year. The Missouri game is one that sticks out to me. I mean, they were they were destined to lose that game until he just started making plays himself. And I'm done doubting that kid. I have to admit, I didn't always believe he could take him to the pinnacle. But I'm done doubting that young man because of the things he's done. I mean, he's unbelievable to watch, and he'll do whatever it takes to win the damn football game is what my opinion is.
Well, that's to me, when I go back and I look at great quarterbacks, is that everybody in college wants to say, well, he's not an NFL prospect, so he's not. I could care less if he's an NFL prospect. Who cares? I want to know, can he win? Can he find a way to make plays? And what he does is he makes plays. He's got good players around him. Yeah. He understands that. And then obviously, the easy thing is Georgia's defense they're freaks. I mean, they're freaks. Nobody else has defensive players the way that they do. And so it allows you to make a mistake. But like you said, without him, they wouldn't have won a championship last year. And the only reason that they've got a shot this year, it's not the only reason, but he is, in my opinion, if he's not in New York for the Heisman deal, then again, the sports writers don't know what they're doing.
I agree.
Yeah, agreed.
Unbelievable. Well, Coach, we really appreciate your time today.
Yeah.
We enjoyed speaking with you, and hopefully we can have you in again. We encourage everybody that's listening today to go and check out Coach Franklin's podcast. We'll post all the links to it on our site. But, Coach, thank you so much for taking some time on your Sunday morning to join us today.
Yeah, thank you, guys, and I appreciate what you all do. Y'all are fun. Thanks.
All right, thank you, Coach. Have a great day. We'll talk to you again real soon. Wow. That was awesome, man.
Yeah.
That was awesome. And I'm so glad we started off with Coach Dykes. I didn't even really plan that. Yeah. When I started to talk, I wanted to get his thoughts on some of the coaching jobs. And I just happened to mention TCU because obviously what happened yesterday and all that. But I'm so glad we started there because of the history that Coach Franklin has with Coach Dykes. I thought that was really cool to unpack that and to hear him break that down. What did you think?
Well, not only that, but I think one thing Coach Franklin maybe didn't mention at all was you look at all those kids. I mean, not only does he have that well-versed of Texas knowledge and understanding, really getting the street cred from the high school coaches, but every one of those kids on that TCU roster, I guarantee you he recruited too as well. He knew their strengths. He knew their weaknesses. It's not like he was walking into a fresh situation, which, let's be honest, he was.
Yeah.
But in reality, he already knew those guys. He was a step ahead of the game, and he was a good culture fit for that program. I mean, you look at the year before, TCU was a shell of itself because I think Gary Patterson, who's a great coach, his yelling kind of went on deaf ears because everybody heard it for so long.
Yeah.
And getting that new set of ears in there, and look at him today. I mean, Quentin Johnson is going to be probably a top 10 pick.
Yeah, he's going to be a first rounder. There's no doubt. And me and you, I mean, I'm not, we admit when we're wrong on stuff, but
absolutely.
We do. We're not always right. Hell, I admitted a minute ago, I was wrong on Stetson Bennett. I didn't think I thought he was a good quarterback, and I thought he was, played it way above his, initial talent level and all that. But I just was like, I don't know. And I was wrong on that. I mean, as I just mentioned, I will never doubt that kid ever again in anything that he ever does in his life, because he is just tenacious and he's a winner, as you said. But we thought that Coach Dykes would be a good hire there. We both liked that hire when it was made.
I've always liked Coach Dykes.
Yeah, me too. And that's why I like Coach Franklin, and him and Coach Dykes were together for a long time, and always liked him and thought he was a really good football coach and thought he would do a good job at TCU.
Yeah,
I just didn't anticipate how fast.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, this is just.
I have to admit, I didn't call that.
I think if you did, you should go to Vegas because you could make a lot more money. Because let's be honest, I mean, we knew the offense was going to be there. I didn't expect the defense to come around. I mean, the Texas game alone. I mean,
that was where the defense was on full display, and I loved how Coach Franklin talked about that. That's yesterday. you know, I'm not going to harp on the Vols loss too much, but their defense did get exposed. I mean, that secondary, you know, they've lacked serious playmakers in that. I mean, we both said at the beginning of the season their best secondary player was Alontae Taylor last year, and he's gone, plays for the Saints now, and they didn't really replace him.
Yeah.
They just don't have the types of corners that you have to have. I mean, think about Bama. You know, 2 years ago when they had Patrick Surtain and even the other guys they had behind Surtain. I mean, they had 2 or 3 NFL corners on their team. There's no NFL corners on that Vols team, and that's why you know, Spencer Rattler had a great game. Rattler did a good job, but you know, their defense did get exposed a little bit. And I love this is coming from an offensive guru who says you can't be a good football team if you don't have a good defense. And I loved how he not only said that, but then emphasized it and backed it up with nonstop examples. I thought that was really cool to hear from him.
Yeah, absolutely. I have always found this guy fascinating. I mean, it's just he's just his innovation in the game is. I mean, take Jimbo Fisher. The guy has not evolved in how long? He's running the same damn offense he ran at LSU, and we're 20 years later.
No, I loved how he didn't hold back anything talking about old Jimbo. I mean, Jimbo's the problem.
Yes.
And the problem was the contract that he got. I think that caused a lot of problems for them because he's not worried about losing, or he wasn't worried about it. I bet he's worried about it now, but he wasn't really worried about it. That's why he didn't go and get somebody to come in and call the plays and be the offensive coordinator and kept doing it himself because, hell, you know, if somebody gives you $100 million, you're going to feel pretty strongly about yourself too, James, especially when it's $100 million guaranteed.
Well,
and you know,
what are they going to do? Fire him and owe him $85 million? I'm not going to lie.
86.
I'll take it.
Yeah.
You fire me for $86 million. I'll pack my bags. You tell me what door to walk out of.
Exactly. As Coach Orgeron said.
Yeah, absolutely.
For $17 million, what time you want me to leave and what door you want me to go out of? That was the funniest damn thing I've ever heard. And I'll never forget that. But before we get out of here today, I do want to talk about some of the other games that we didn't get to get into because we were real guest heavy today. And I wanted to bring both those guys on today because we're coming towards the end of the season. And I wanted to get Demetrius on to talk, you know, Big Ten, talk the Buckeyes, get his thoughts on the game. Hell, he won a national championship. He played in the game. He won, beat the team up north many times. And so I really wanted to have him on today. And then I wanted to unpack this 2022 season as a whole with Coach Franklin and get him on because he's a genius and I love him. So I wanted to have him on too. So we did go guest heavy, but I wanted to talk a little bit about some of the other games yesterday. The first one I want to talk about is obviously the first team, Georgia, playing Kentucky yesterday. Kentucky, the season that could have been. I mean, they just started off so strong and then completely and utterly fell apart. But yesterday, their defense showed back up, which I thought was interesting. You know, think about this, the Kentucky team. They beat Miami of Ohio. They beat Florida. They beat Youngstown. They beat Northern Illinois. They're plugging right along. They almost beat Ole Miss at Oxford, lost 22-19. And then that South Carolina loss came on, and that's when we were like, wait a second, what's going on here? But they showed up yesterday and, you know, played a pretty decent game against Georgia, held the Bulldogs to 16 points. You know, not one of the greatest games in Stetson Bennett's career, honestly. 13-19 for 116 yards and a pick, but he won the game. What did you think about Georgia, Kentucky yesterday? And what do you think led to that final score?
Honestly, I think Georgia got in the red zone and they tightened up. I mean, you look at the first half. I mean, you have 3 field goals all within the red zone. I mean, you got to put the ball. If you're in the red zone, yeah, you can get away with a field goal kick here or there. But if you're going to be a championship level team and put your foot down on someone's throat, you got to get that ball in the end zone. Yeah. And I mean, that really hurt them overall. I mean, quite frankly, if Georgia played that kind of game against Tennessee, Tennessee probably walks on. I mean, this is just it's kind of concerning because it just, can you turn it on and off at the drop of a hat? And I mean, let's be honest, Georgia Tech, they're gonna beat the crap out of Georgia Tech next week, and now you got
they though?
Yeah, they will. They'll beat Georgia Tech pretty bad. Georgia Tech's just not a good program.
They're not, but yet their third string quarterback comes in yesterday and takes down North Carolina. And that was the next game I was actually going to go to, because all I heard the last few weeks was that this kid, May, was a Heisman Trophy candidate. And how amazing! I mean, don't get me wrong; he's got good numbers. But when I watch him, I'm just not like Heisman Trophy winner. I just don't. I didn't see it. No, I got ripped apart for my criticisms of him and my frankly my non-belief. Yesterday, he goes 16 of 30 for 200 yards and an interception, and loses to the third string quarterback against Georgia Tech. Tell our listeners what happened in that game, and how they were able to lose to a Georgia Tech team that's already fired their coach and was down 2 quarterbacks.
Honestly, if I'm Georgia Tech's administration, I'm taking a serious look at Brett Key, because he has really escalated this team from where they're. I mean, it's a tough school. I mean, academically, and he is getting these guys playing better than they ever have before. I personally don't think he's going to get the job, because I think Georgia Tech wants to go after a guy like a Jamie Chadwell. I don't know if Chadwell wants to go to Atlanta, but it's – I mean, the ACC as a whole has just been so odd. I mean, you look at Notre Dame going in and kicking the crap out of the 3 best teams in that conference. I think the ACC is going to have a really rough bowl season, really rough.
Yeah. Oh, I agree. And I think I agree with you. I think Coach Key would definitely have a chance potentially of getting the job, except for that Florida State game.
Yeah.
That I think hurt him. Did not go well. I mean, that was a pistol whipping. And I think that may have hurt his chances. But let's be honest, this team was in shambles. Their only victory had come against Western Carolina, and they had just, gotten pushed around all year. And then, he came back and beat Pitt, beat Duke back to back. And, and then they started to see some, coaches take note of things and started to see some of his tendencies, and then he lost a couple games. But I think he's done a really good job, as you said. I agree with you.
Yeah.
And I think he definitely at least deserves some consideration.
Absolutely. I think a name that people should also consider, I know Jamie Chadwell's name is because he's like the name of the week, but another guy is Willie Fritz. I mean, this guy came up the hard way at Tulane. Everywhere he goes, he wins.
Yeah, he beat SMU 59-24 on Thursday night.
I have been blown away by this guy ever since I saw him at Sam Houston State. I mean, this guy is a real coach that no one really talks about nationwide, and I would love to see him get some B5 looks.
Yeah, I think he should. I mean, if you're sitting around this year and you're a college football fan and you haven't taken notice of what Tulane has done, then you've got one of your eyes closed, because Tulane football is for real, and he's done an amazing job there.
He went into Kansas State into Manhattan and beat Kansas State, who's going to be playing for a Big 12 title. I mean,
exactly.
What more can you say?
Yeah, that's all that needs to be said. That right there is what I was talking about. So I know we mentioned it a little bit earlier, but I do want to get back to it just for a minute. The Tennessee game, as Coach Franklin mentioned, the Bryce Williams is, in my opinion, and Coach Franklin's opinion, mind you, which means a butt ton more than mine, it's a hard place to play. When that place is rocking, and it's a big time game, Clemson, Tennessee, SEC opponent, night game especially, that place rocks. I think back to the movie The Program, where they used video footage from South Carolina, because that's where they filmed the football scenes of that movie, and they just use some of the fan footage from the Gamecocks because that place is crazy, and they had that place rocking last night, and we talk about all these coaches. How about Coach Beamer, man? They have no running back.
Yeah,
do not have a running back to play in the game. He goes to his tight ends like, listen, bro, we're gonna give you the ball 20 times tonight, and we're gonna need you to beat the number 5 team in the country. And it wasn't just him. Obviously, Spencer Rattler had a tremendous game and was throwing the ball all over the place. But their defense, caused some issues for the Tennessee offense. And Tennessee's defense, as Coach Franklin mentioned, got exposed. I was pretty much shocked. I thought South Carolina might give them a tough game. I thought it would be closer than most of the people predicted. Thought they had a shot to win. There's no way in hell I can sit here and look at you with a straight face and tell you that I thought that South Carolina was going to drop 63 points and just destroy Tennessee. I did not see that coming.
Going into this game, they scored 18 touchdowns all year. They scored 9 last night in one day. I mean, seriously, this Spencer Rattler, where has he been in the last 2 years? I think this is the kid I was expecting. I mean,
I think that's where the criticism comes with him. That is what he can be.
Yeah.
And I think that's why people have been kind of disappointed with him, don't you think?
I agreed. I mean, the inconsistent. I mean, there are times where he just looks absolutely brutal, and he was trying to be too conservative. And granted, I don't know what it's like to be a presumptive first pick in the draft or the presumptive Heisman Trophy winner. I mean, I would probably be freaking out a little bit too. But that's the stage you've chose to be on too, as well. It's just good to see him getting back to who he was. I mean, he looked way more comfortable. I mean, hell, he's throwing the ball downfield. He looked vertical, which has been a problem for probably the last 20 games.
He looked like the kid that was touted to be the number 1 pick in the NFL draft last night. I mean, every throw was precision. He was getting the ball out of his hands quickly. He was making like the best reads that I've ever seen him do. He was going through his progressions, but I mean, some people didn't even realize that because he was going through them so quickly. He was looking at 1, wasn't there, going to 2 immediately, looking at 1, 2, going to 3 before you could even tell that it was doing it. And I was very impressed by that. I'm just, where does he go from here, man? I mean, can he build on this going forward?
I believe so, but I mean, the problem I have is, he's still got eligibility.
He's got 1 year left, correct?
Correct. I mean, now they got to go into Clemson. Could he repeat that and then have a big bowl game? Could he come out? Yeah, but I don't think he would probably go in the first 2 days. I think he'd be probably a 3rd-day pick.
Yeah, I think he comes back.
I think he has to.
If he's got the right people around him helping him make decisions, I think he comes back. I think last night was a very good example of what Coach Beamer is trying to do there at South Carolina. I think he's got to get some more players. There's no doubt. Yep. They've got to recruit a little bit better if they want to compete every single week in the SEC. But the coaching is there. That game plan was freaking flawless yesterday. Yeah. And especially, no one talks about Marcus Satterfield either. And Marcus Satterfield, who I played against in high school, little fun fact for you. Marcus Satterfield was the quarterback for Greenback High School here in Knoxville, Tennessee, 1A school, very tiny. His dad was the head coach at Greenback for years. And that's where Marcus came from. And, he's kind of worked his way up, was at Temple and was also at Tennessee Tech. And now, is at South Carolina. And I thought the offensive game plan was just phenomenal. last night, and one of the big reasons why they won. Do you agree with that?
Oh yeah, no, 100%.
So we'll see what happens with them moving forward. But it's just, if they could just put it together consistently, the sky's the limit for them. But let's just look at it in totality. Last year, first year, they overexceeded expectations, went to a bowl game, did a lot of things that people didn't think they were going to do. This year, they're 7-4 now, going to go to a bowl game again. And I thought it was interesting too. Last year, Tennessee had a big first half, put up a ton of points on South Carolina. Second half, Carolina came back a little bit, but then Tennessee scored a couple times at the very end of the game, and it pissed Coach Beamer off.
Yeah.
I don't know if you noticed last night, but they basically could have handed the ball off and ended the game, and he's throwing darts down the field 30 or 40 yards, and after the 40-yard completion where the guy gets tackled at like the 3-yard line, he looks over and points at Heupel across the field, and then they did not shake hands after the game. So that could be interesting to watch moving forward. Finally, I do want to discuss the USC UCLA game. Wow. Pac-12 galore out there, 48-45. Neither of these teams brought their defensive bus to the game. And DTR, man, I love DTR, but I got to be honest, those 3 interceptions caused some issues for this team. And I just wish he had a couple of those throws back, because UCLA had an opportunity to win this game. I mean, DTR, 309 yards, 4 touchdown passes, and then he ran 2 touchdowns. So he had 6 TDs, but I felt like the 3 picks were kind of that was kind of like the drop-off point for them and the reason they lost.
I agree, but Caleb Williams, honest to God, it feels like every single play, you think he's just about down. He finds a way to get out of it and throws a dart to somebody for a first down. Like, it is crazy how he just does it time and time again. And it's, I mean, USC could be sitting, if they win out, we may be talking about them being that 4th team.
It's potentially going to happen. And we need to also recognize the running back, Austin Jones, last night. He gets the start. Troy Dye ripped his knee up, a career-ending injury last week. And so Jones gets thrusted into the starting role in their biggest game of the year, and 21 carries for 120 yards and 2 touchdowns. Also had 4 catches for 57 yards. Him and Jordan Addison really provided the spark on offense. So
yeah,
it was pretty amazing. So what now? We got the game. We got, we got a lot of things.
It's rivalry week.
It's rivalry week. What do you think's going to happen next week as we look ahead here with some of these big rivalry games? Anything stick out to you before we get out of here?
It's just going to be chaos, because in rivalry week, throw records out the window, throw everything out the window, because everybody's playing for this game. I mean, you go down the games that most people would even pay attention to, like the old Civil War between Oregon and Oregon State. That's going to be a game. Florida State against Florida. Florida State wants to run the score up on Florida while they're down. It's all about recruiting. You got Apple Cup. Go down the line. There's going to be so many great games that it's my favorite week of the year, because there's so much passion in the stadium.
Yeah, I'm the one game that you did mention that I'm interested to see is the South Carolina Clemson game. Can South Carolina, show up? As you mentioned, Spencer Rattler had thrown 8 touchdowns all year.
Yeah.
Yesterday he threw 6. So, can they keep that going? Can they be consistent? That should be interesting to see. And then, Notre Dame and USC. That has become a big game now. Everybody was laughing about Notre Dame and making fun of them and poo-pooing the Ohio State victory over Notre Dame. Well, they've come alive here the last few weeks and destroyed Boston College 44-0 yesterday. Do you see any way, shape, or form that Notre Dame can go into the Coliseum and beat USC?
They can.
I think they can too.
I think they got to make it a meat and potatoes game, though, because let's be honest, Notre Dame's passing game is still pretty subpar, but defensively, they're legit. I mean, you don't go 8-3 without having a legit defense. I mean, their passing game has just been an abomination, though, this year, and they got to address that this offseason as much as they can. But no, I think Notre Dame can walk in and beat USC.
Yeah, no, they need to run the football, keep the ball out of Caleb Williams' hands, and just possess the ball. But we'll see what happens. We're gonna let you go take a nap, and we're gonna come back after Thanksgiving and really break it down. We got a huge guest coming on, Jeff Hardings, former All-American at Penn State, former Pittsburgh Steeler badass, and now the coach at Worthington Christian. He's going to join us on December 4, and we'll try and have another show after the holiday, hopefully Monday night, but we'll keep everybody abreast of that. But awesome show today. DEMETRIUS KNOX, former Ohio State offensive lineman, all Big Ten performer, national champion, and then the coach, Tony Franklin today. We'll try and split those interviews up and post them up to our YouTube channel. So in case anybody missed it, either one of those, they can go and watch the shorts, which we now have on our YouTube page. So,
and definitely, if you're a coach, read up on his system. The system, Tony Franklin system is, I mean, heck, it speaks for itself, as well as listen to his podcast.
No doubt. Yeah, check him out. And as I mentioned, I used to go to all those clinics, and to be honest, I was usually working, so I didn't listen to all the seminars, but I'd always go stick my head in there and listen to Tony talk, because he's a really smart coach, and really, really innovative on his offensive philosophy. So great to hear from him today. And I thought it was a really, really good show. So everybody go check it out. If you missed anything, subscribe to our YouTube channel, Man Coverage, and definitely check out all the sweet interviews, as we're going to keep posting those one at a time, so you can go check out any interviews you missed. All right. Have a great day. James, keep your chin up, get some rest, go take a nap, and we'll see everybody next week. Okay.
All right, man. We'll see you then.
All right. Keep your chin up, buddy.
Bye-bye now.